It's a beautiful spring day in Ithaca, New York. So, of course, instead of going to class, students are out on the quad enjoying the sunshine. I, on the other hand, am inside in Cornell's kosher dining hall learning about the fundamentals of Judaism with my MEOR rabbi. As a second semester senior, I must admit I was slightly distracted by the idea of joining the crowds of carefree students. However, towards the end of the Maimonides class, we came to a story that grabbed my attention and has clearly stuck with me and inspired me since. The story goes that a teacher stands in front of his classroom with an empty glass jar. He fills up the jar with a few big rocks and asks the class if the jar is full. And some of the students say, yes. Second, he fills in the gaps with many smaller stones, and even more students agree that the jar is full. Finally, he pours in a bag of sand, filling in all the remaining spaces, at which point everyone agrees that now the jar is completely full. Okay, so what does this have to do with Judaism, I asked myself? Aren't we supposed to be learning about how our ancestors wandered in the desert or something like that? But Rabbi Harkavy explained the big rocks represent lifelong accomplishments, creating relationships, building a family, developing ourselves, connecting to and contributing to the broader community. Judaism teaches us that these are the pursuits from which we derive the most meaning and satisfaction in our lives. Conversely, the stones and sand parallel superficial pursuits and distractions. The clincher for me was when Rabbi Harkavy asked if the teacher had filled up the jar in reverse, with sand first, stone second, would the big rocks have fit in third? No. In other words, if we fill up our lives with things that are somewhat gratifying at best or unfulfilling at worst, how are we going to fit in those most meaningful achievements? MEOR made me realize this story is a parable for Judaism's worldview. The things that ultimately give us the most pleasure and joy in our lives require time, effort, prioritization, and commitment. We don't have the luxury to spend our time filling up on pebbles and sand. This story really connected with me. I was about to graduate from Cornell and start a great job at Deloitte Consulting. Of course, these were important, but the story made me consider if there was more to the picture. Were my priorities in line? What else was I going to fill my time with? I wondered if I might be missing something bigger in life simply because I had never given serious thought to what that might be. I walked out the doors of the cafeteria, up the hill, and headed over to the main street in College Town towards my apartment. I had the feeling of someone who didn't realize she had needed glasses her whole life and was suddenly given the right prescription. Something I didn't even realize was there before was coming clearly into focus. I sensed I was starting to uncover something immensely valuable. I had an urgent need to share this story, so I immediately called Michael, my friend who encouraged me to take part in MEOR in the first place. I told him about the class, and with each detail, I found myself becoming even more excited about what I was learning. He was thrilled I was so enthusiastic, as he had had a very positive experience with MEOR at Emory when he was a student. I'll come back to him later. In the following sessions with Rabbi Harkavy, I realized that Judaism actually had a lot to say about how to live life to the fullest. I was really interested about learning more about Judaism. So to continue the education, I took part in MEOR Israel during the summer following graduation. We had a rigorous schedule of class in the morning, followed by excursions in the afternoon. Exhausted but inspired, I loved every day of the trip. We were encouraged to ask the big questions. Why be Jewish at all? How do we know that God exists? What is our purpose in this world? I saw for the first time that Judaism had logical, practical answers to these questions. We also learned that seemingly commonplace concepts like giving others the benefit of the doubt or helping those in need are actually obligations with deep roots in Jewish law and tradition. The rabbis and teachers showed us that Jewish learning was relevant to our lives. They showed Judaism in a whole new light. And by the end of the trip, I realized something. I saw for myself that just because our heritage is 3,000 years old doesn't mean it's outdated. On the contrary, the fact that it has lasted 3,000 years and withstood the test of time is the proof that it is the most beautiful, the most real, and the deepest wisdom that exists. And that is what MEOR helped me to discover. I never considered the possibility that Judaism could contain insight and guidance relating to every aspect of life. After all, I always had a strong Jewish identity, and I didn't think there was a part of the picture I wasn't seeing. I was a proud Jewish woman who was always involved, whether in Hebrew school, Jewish youth group, or Hillel. My family often had Shabbat dinner together and celebrated the holidays. My grandparents were one of the founders in the synagogue to which my family belonged and was very active. I am fortunate to have grown up in a family that showed me my Jewish identity was something to be valued. I especially want to thank my parents and my grandparents for being here to support me today and for helping me to become a person who is open-minded enough to consider that our religion might have more to offer than meets the eye. Meeting Torah-observant individuals led me to challenge many of my preconceived notions. The people I met were full of passion and had a deep-rooted love and appreciation for life. I saw the sensitivity they had to others and the strong sense of community. I saw that this way of life would allow me to reinforce and build upon the strong Jewish values with which I was raised. I began to realize that MEOR had helped me to tap into a very special way of living that has been with our lineage for thousands of years. My experience with MEOR took my connection to Judaism to a whole new level. I no longer saw Jewish practice as something to do on occasion. I very much connected with Judaism's perspective on life, and it has become the lens through which I see the world. It has become the means by which I continually focus on personal growth and development. MEOR opened my eyes to the beauty and spirituality I could introduce into my life through strengthening my connection to Judaism. MEOR showed me that Torah observance wasn't a burden, but rather a gift that allows us to infuse everyday life with more meaning and purpose. On what used to be an ordinary Friday night, now lighting Shabbos candles and having a beautiful meal to honor Shabbos is my favorite part of the week. I feel fortunate when going out of my way to pick up kosher food. I get a high when I have the opportunity to explain Jewish practices to curious coworkers. This is my life today, and I couldn't be more proud of it. Before my involvement with MEOR, Torah study was not something I would have even considered to be a worthwhile pursuit. But once I had gotten a taste of the wisdom contained in our tradition, I felt that I couldn't get enough. Fortunately, I've had the opportunity to continue my learning through returning to Israel with the MEOR Vision program, as well as by connecting with the MEOR community in New York City. I've been lucky to build relationships with many amazing supporters, including honorees Lauren and Daniel Feinberg. So remember my friend Michael, who got me interested in MEOR and Jewish learning in the first place? Well, the icing on the cake to this story is that exactly 3 months from today, he and I will be getting married under the chuppah and start our journey to build our own family. MEOR was not just an inspiring experience or a fun trip to Israel. MEOR is a movement, an opportunity to shift your perspective on what it means to be a Jewish person who lives his life by Torah values in today's world. MEOR provided an outlet to delve deeply into Jewish ideas in a way most students, like myself, would have never even known existed. Without supporters like you, none of this would have been possible. Unfortunately, studies show that without a strong connection to Jewish values, each generation becomes increasingly distant from our beautiful heritage. I think it is safe to assume we are all very concerned about this trend. It is crucial that as many Jewish students as possible have a MEOR experience like Michael and I did, for their own personal benefit as well as for the continuity of the Jewish people as a whole. Because of your generosity and support, you have not only changed the direction of mine and Michael's lives separately and together, you have also completely changed the trajectory of our children's lives and our grandchildren's lives and every generation thereafter. Because of you, we are making a choice to infuse our home with a love of Torah, something that will carry on for generations to come and ensure that we, the Jewish people, will continue to be a Kiddush Hashem and light unto the nations. Thank you.